on GBTV. Don't miss it. Let's get the latest poll now from South Carolina.
Yeah, this is just coming out, and it has Newt Gingrich in the lead, 35%. Mitt Romney at 29% now, 6-point lead.
Wow.
Ron Paul and Rick Santorum now tied at 15%. So what that basically represents is a drop-off slightly for Romney, a increase for Santorum, and a increase for Gingrich. But that is the biggest lead Gingrich has had in quite some time in South Carolina. Now, that's
remember, it is South Carolina that gave us John McCain.
Yeah, it's true. They have the Real Clear Politics average, which is 4 polls now, are averaged to give a lead of 1 point to Gingrich. So it's still very close, obviously, but this is the biggest lead he's had, and clearly Gingrich has the momentum at this point. Yay!
When was this taken?
This was it ended yesterday. So if you're looking at what happened with the reaction to the whole affair stuff, none of this would be included in this polling yet.
Who's the poller?
This one is a Democratic poll, PPP, but Rasmussen Reports, Insider Advantage, and Politico are the other 3.
That's incredible. How can somebody who has come out against capitalism, who has said Andrew Jackson helps him on how to deal with your enemies, kill them, when, if you know history, Andrew Jackson, his enemies were the Native Americans, and it was manifest destiny. It was one of the darkest periods in our country's history. He learns how to deal with people from Andrew Jackson when he looks for health care and says, who am I most like? I'm like Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt is the guy who first started to talk about universal health care. When he says, how do I view our foreign policy? He looks to Woodrow Wilson. He says, I am a, what does he say? I'm a realpolitik Wilsonian, which is in support of the policies that brought us into World War I and the League of Nations, which became the United Nations. When he says, who is the best president of the 20th century, he says, not Ronald Reagan, not Calvin Coolidge, but FDR.
Yeah, I mean,
help me out here.
You have to look, though, also at what Newt Gingrich, does he see the founders the same way we do? And I think for that, you can say yes. For example, this quote, none of the founding fathers would have said that George Washington, owning Mount Vernon as the largest landowner, should pay the same tax as somebody who's a cobbler.
Why do you hang on just a second?
Yes.
I just got lost on cobbler.
Okay, can you
use
repeat it one more time?
Modern day because I'm hungry. Go ahead.
None of the founding. Think about what he's saying here. None of the founding fathers, none of them, would have said that George Washington, owning Mount Vernon as the largest landowner, should have paid the same tax as somebody who was a cobbler or a shoemaker.
Thank you.
Thank you. In other words, no one would have said that a rich guy would pay the same tax as a guy who's not rich. I'm sorry. I thought Newt Gingrich was behind this flat tax. Wasn't he the guy proposing that? What happened to that? This is so weird because we're told over and over again this guy's a conservative, but certainly none of the founding fathers would have thought.
Progressive.
And that's an amazing
America,
quote.
you hire Newt Gingrich. If you run Newt Gingrich, you're going to lose the election. But if you go for Newt Gingrich and he strangely does win the election, come what may, it's on your head. It's on your head. And that's great. Maybe I'm all wrong and it's going to be sunshine and lollipops. But I'm telling you, this guy is a progressive. And do you remember when I will ring the bell equally on both sides? Do you remember when I told you that there's going to come a time when the progressives, somebody's going to want to grab the pendulum? Well, we have the conditions that are being sown right now. And the pendulum is going to stop, possibly stop temporarily, like it did in the Civil War with Abraham Lincoln, where he suspends. Now, are you going to have somebody to release the pendulum? Because things in this country are getting out of control. Do you have somebody that understands the Constitution, or do you have somebody that understands the progressive movement and has modeled himself after every bad progressive president we've ever had? He extols the progressive presidents. Now, do you want a progressive that understands that the Declaration of Independence is not important and the Constitution is ever changing? Do you want a big government progressive? We already have one. Has this whole fight been a lie? Has this whole Tea Party thing been a lie? Because if you are voting for Newt Gingrich, you are voting for everything that I thought you were against. I thought you wanted a man of character that was going to tell you the truth and be able to be trustworthy. I thought that's what you wanted. I thought you wanted somebody that was for small government. I thought when you were against government health care, you were actually against government health care. But maybe you just didn't like the brand that Barack Obama was giving you. And so you want government health care from your guy. I thought you were against all of these things that he is for. I thought you understood the progressive movement, and you found it evil. If you vote for Newt Gingrich, you're a liar to yourself. You are lying. You have lied either to me, to yourself, for the last 2 years, because there's no way to justify this in your mind. No way.
Well, they could disagree with you.
They can
disagree with your analysis on
exactly.
that. And they can,
analysis. It's not analysis. It's his own words.
Look, I'm the one who brought up the quote.
Right.
I'm with you on it.
It's his own words. Now, I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm saying this is his opinion. He is the one who's saying who he is, who he models himself after, and they're all the progressives. So please, you can say, you know what? Yeah, there were other things that bothered me about Barack Obama. Or, yeah, I did want government health care from, a progressive on the right. Or whatever it is, you can vote for him and say, yes, I've changed my mind. I feel this way. Or I never did feel that way, Glenn. I just want my guy to have all the control and power. If that's where you are, then fine. Just identify yourself as that person. Do not become the Democrat that said, you know what, he's a Democrat and he's just a good old Democrat. No, he's not. He's a socialist. He's a Marxist that has surrounded himself with communists. You've been arguing for the truth. Just tell me who you really are. Why hide? Code language. Well, all the progressive code language is all here. All the warning signs are here with Newt Gingrich. All of them. Every one. You want to reject them? Fine. Explain yourself how you reject them. Explain, not to me, to yourself. Explain. Explain all the warning signs away, just like Democrats are doing with Barack Obama or did. Explain them all away. I don't know how you live with yourself. If you can answer those things, great. Just know who you are. And don't ever call this program and talk to me about Barack Obama. Don't ever do it. Progressivism is a disease. It is the disease that's killing our country and our Constitution. If you're going for Newt Gingrich, you're pushing the disease. Our sponsor this half, as much as John McCain, if not more so. John McCain is a progressive. Newt Gingrich makes him look like he's walking around in diapers. Our sponsor this half hour is...
Why would that happen? Do progressives walk around in diapers? What's the...
No, because he's a rookie. He's a baby compared to... John McCain is a baby progressive.
I don't know. They're both
absolutely.
They're both
quite progressive.
You've
heard him say about Teddy Roosevelt, John McCain, and you've seen his policies.
His favorite president.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard him say the greatest president of the 20th century is FDR? Have you heard him say that the greatest, that when it comes to health care, he's Theodore Roosevelt? When it comes to foreign policy, he's Wilson? No. And Andrew Jackson? No. Here's our sponsor this half hour. It's FreedomWorks, freedomworksforme.com. These are the people that I really, truly believe are not playing games. They mean what they say and say what they mean. And they are taking on the big government progressives in the GOP just as hard as they are taking on the progressives in the Obama administration. I don't believe that when these guys, if they got a Mitt Romney in or a God forbid a Newt Gingrich in, they're not going to go away. They're still going to be watching the next election, and they're going to still be standing there guard dogging our Constitution. FreedomWorksForMe.com. Go there now, find out all about them, and help them if you can. FreedomWorksForMe.com.
The truth. GBTV. Anytime, anywhere. Sign up now at GBTV.com. Mercury.
I had a Gingrich supporter tell me yesterday in an email, I don't care if he's a progressive. Stop smearing him.
Smearing him?
Okay,
we're just giving the facts about him.
You don't care if he's a progressive? Isn't that how Barack Obama's supporters feel? They don't care if he's a progressive.
Right.
They don't care if he's a Marxist. They don't care where he's taken. They just continue to support.
That's the problem.
Wow.
We get wrapped up in personalities.
Yep.
And we believe that personality is the one. And, I said on last night's show on GBTV was such a great show. David Barton was there. The tweets on last night's show were remarkable. People were like, pay the $5 just for today's show. It was a great show yesterday. But I said at the very end of the show, I said, one of my biggest frustrations is I can't seem to convince people that the individual matters. I can't seem to convince enough people that you matter, that you have a job to do. You're the one that is going to make the difference in your surroundings. It's not a guy on TV. It's not a guy in the White House. It's not a guy running for the White House. It's all of us together doing our part. Stand where you're supposed to stand and do what you're supposed to do.
Glenn Beck.
I apologize to you for. I don't want to be. My anger is not actually directed at you or if you're for Newt Gingrich. It's really not. It's directed at me because I feel I hear this stuff and I feel like a failure. I really do. I feel like an absolute failure that somehow or another I've not gotten the point across as I should have about progressivism. And I've dropped the ball somehow or another. And so I apologize. But I want to talk to you about that last rant. And I don't have time now, but we'll do it at the top of the hour. And your phone call, 888-727-BECK, 888-727, back.
This is Glenn Beck.
Mercury.
We will be
Entertainment, enlightenment.
We will be.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
I want to talk about two things. One, if you just joined us, we had a rant last hour on Newt Gingrich, and I want to address that right away. Newt Gingrich supporters, not Newt Gingrich, but Newt Gingrich supporters, there's a new poll out shows that he's now ahead in South Carolina. And look, you're going to vote for whoever you want. And I'll tell you this, you're not listening to a guy who politically calculates or even calculates for business or ratings. I don't calculate. I used to calculate before I sobered up, and everything I said was calculation of how many ratings can we get, how much this, and how much. I sobered up. Those are all lies. Calculations are lies, and I don't calculate. And I just said during the break, I said, Stu came in. He's like, Glenn, you're really, really difficult because we don't like to eat. And
well, I wouldn't say I said that. I mean,
No.
I think it's a point of I don't know what even is productive about getting angry at the audience for them making a decision.
Yeah, and I said to Stu, I'm not angry at the audience. I'm angry at myself because I feel like a failure. We have been on this show and we have talked. Nobody knew about progressivism. Nobody knew about progressivism. Generally speaking, nobody really knew what that meant, especially on the right. People like Jonah Goldberg and even his dad, and there's a lot of people who have held that light out for a long time, but it wasn't really getting any news. People didn't know what it meant. This audience and the Tea Parties, I really thought, I thought we were in sync. I thought when I went to CPAC and I gave that speech, which I got so much heat for from conservatives, so much heat. And I said, progressivism is a disease, and it's not in just one party. It's in both. John McCain. John McCain is an example of a right progressive. Now, GOP members don't want to hear this, but I really thought that the GOP members understood, not the Washington power types, but the Americans understood. When we went to tea parties and you were complaining about Barack Obama and you're complaining about health care, I tried, and I didn't do it enough, apparently. I tried to make sure you understood that the first president that proposed this was not a Democrat. It was a Republican. And they took the small government chair away from the table. That's what Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson did. They took the small government chair away from the table. Wilson, Theodore Roosevelt, FDR, Andrew Jackson, who's in a different category on his own, LBJ, and Barack Obama, those are the most dangerous presidents to the Constitution. Bar none, it's those. Newt Gingrich says he learned very important positive lessons from the first four. Barack Obama, he's against. But he's for universal health care. He has been for 20 years. Well, I thought you were against universal health care. And so I feel like a failure because I really feel like I somehow or another I didn't explain this well enough. People didn't see. I should have been more clear that it's on both sides and that you've got to somehow or another. I don't know. I don't know what I could have done.
I think there's a couple reasons here, right? Number one, you're talking about when you get in the heat of the moment, it's always harder to see stuff like this on your own side. And that's why I think it's important to bring up the stuff that Newt has said. And also we've brought up the stuff Romney has said and done, which is just as bad in many cases. And we've talked about that. The other thing I think is it's a prioritization thing. People agree with you that the worst president that we've had for the Constitution, or one of the five, is Barack Obama, who is currently in office, and people see they need somebody who's a fighter that will go in there and take this guy on and get him out of there, because even while Newt might do things that are bad, he's not going to do a lot of the things that Barack Obama does.
See, I can look at Ron Paul, and I so vehemently disagree. I think he's a danger to our country when it comes to Islamic extremism. I think he is so far off track. He's a danger to our country on that. But I can see how people say that's not important. I can really see when people say, if we don't have our economy, then we won't have any military. I get it. I disagree with you on this, but I truly get it. I don't know how you can be against Barack Obama unless you want your guy to do all of these things.
Well, I think, too, it's easier, and we talked a little bit about this on the fourth hour yesterday, in that Newt Gingrich and John McCain, I think, are really interesting sort of side by side, in that many times they support the exact same policies. And everyone recognized that McCain was a progressive Republican, and he did wind up getting the nomination, but people voted with him with their hands over their face, and they couldn't believe they were doing it. Where with Newt Gingrich, I don't think it's that way. And I think it's because of a very specific thing they both do. When John McCain has a policy that's more liberal than almost every Republican, he sells that to the media. He goes to the media and he says, well, look, the science is settled here, and we need to understand global warming, and we need to, as Republicans, need to be on board with this because the science is settled, and these flat earther types, blah, blah, blah. It never goes that far. But he sells that position to the media. Newt Gingrich, while he takes the same stance on a lot of these issues, but he sells it to conservatives. He comes to you and he says, well, yes, we need an individual mandate because it's a conservative principle that everyone's responsible for their own health care. See, John McCain would never sell that way. He sells that to the media. He's trying to shine to the left. He's moving to the middle all the time.
It is Bernays. It is packaging.
It's exactly it.
Salesmanship.
It's packaging. Newt Gingrich supports things that you don't agree with, but he tries to make them sound conservative. The quote I read earlier from Newt Gingrich when he was saying, look, I don't think that that any of our founding fathers would believe that George Washington should pay the same rate as a person who fixes shoes. That is his way of selling to conservatives the progressive income tax.
He is a genius at it.
He's very good.
And it's like we mentioned yesterday when he went up to New York 23rd District, and there was a battle there between Didi Scozafava, who is a liberal, just a flat-out Republican liberal, and the conservative Doug Hoffman, with whom we spoke on the air a few times, and I think we all wanted him to win because he was a true conservative. And Gingrich went up there like 2 weeks before the election and supported Scozafava, the liberal, and then Fox finally asked him about it. This is a perfect example of the genius of how he defends himself.
Well, I just find it fascinating that my many friends who claim to be against Washington having too much power, they claim to be in favor of the 10th Amendment giving states back their rights. They claim to favor local control and local authority. Now they suddenly get local control and local authority in upstate New York, and they don't like the outcome.
So how dare you oppose me supporting her?
Yeah.
You're the stupid one.
Right.
Because you don't understand this issue. I do.
Right. You're not conservative enough.
I thought you were conservative.
Right. You're not conservative enough to support this liberal.
Yeah.
That's an amazing rhetorical trick.
He's really good at it, though.
He does it all the time.
Really good. He's very good. And that is one of the secrets. I mean, maybe that's what we didn't bring out enough is Edward Bernays. The way to package things, the way to sell things. It's what they've been looking for. And that's why you keep getting the same exact policies. And you think you're voting for something different, but you're not. You're really not. You're voting for a different, for instance, you're voting for the flag and red, white, and blue and the founders for Newt Gingrich. And you're voting for, a new era and hope and change for Barack Obama. But a lot of their policies are the same. They both believe in big government. They both believe in mandated health insurance from the federal government. They both believe in giant education apparatuses based in Washington. They both believe those things. There's some fundamental differences, yes, but there's some fundamental similarities. Mm-hmm. And it's just packaging that makes it seem like a choice. It's a false choice.
That's why I love Rick Santorum.
Okay, stop. Seriously, stop. Seriously, stop.
He's in the hospital.
No, seriously, stop.
Wait,
stop.
the music was still on.
From gingivitis.
Look, let me.
From what?
Gingivitis.
Wait, that sounds serious.
It is serious.
What happened now?
He's got gingivitis.
Oh no, this is.
Is that
terrible.
a bleeding of the?
It's I don't know
gums
what happens. I'm not a doctor.
All right, okay.
I'm not a doctor.
All right, okay, stop. Now listen, I want you to know, and this is why I apologize for that rant because it was anger, but it's anger at myself, a disappointment, or I just don't know what I could have done. But I have friends. I have really good, close friends who say, Glenn, stop with the Newt Gingrich thing. He's not that bad. So, and I still respect them, and I love them. I can't believe, I want to grab them by their collar and say, what the hell is wrong with you? And I don't understand it, and I want to. And I have talked to my friends and said, you're going to have to sit down with me because I really respect your opinion on almost everything. And I'm confused. I'm completely confused. And the only thing that I have gotten so far from those people that I understand is we have got to win. Well, no, that's not the way you win. That's not the way you win. And that's an empty victory. If we have another big government progressive, what is that? I don't want to win that badly that we just become all those things that we despise. But they believe in Newt, and they're my friends, so I get it, and I apologize. But I would remind you that it is now the time to argue. Now is the time to duke it out, really duke it out. Not like, the Occupy Wall Street or the left wants to duke it out with clubs, but to duke it out verbally, because our soul, the soul of our country, and I believe our very souls are at stake. Not just on this election, but how we move forward from here. At some point, we are going to have to come together. I tell you, if Newt Gingrich gets in, I just don't see myself voting for. I can't do it. I really can't. First president that I really say I will vote for a third party. I will put yard signs up. I will organize a third party if I have to. No, I mean it.
I don't know. I said the same thing about McCain, and so did you, and you voted for McCain, and so did I. I
believe. I never said I could not vote.
I feel like I know. I'm almost positive I said that at one point, and the only thing that made me vote for John McCain, really, in the end, was Sarah Palin. And I don't know. Maybe he'll pick a fantastic vice president that will.
I know what I have in Barack Obama. Devil you know may be better than the devil that you don't know. But I'm not sure. I mean,
well, you're not going to vote for Barack Obama.
At least he's good. At least he's good on Israel.
Yeah,
and so maybe that in the end is where I go if he's the guy. But I right now I just cannot see I can see myself voting for everybody else. I cannot see myself voting for Newt Gingrich.
And we've made the point a million times about the validity of voting on someone you think could win and whether that's a good idea or not.
Bad idea.
But I think it's a bad idea too. But beyond that, there is no evidence in any of the polling that if you want to vote for the guy who can win, it's Newt Gingrich.
It's not even Rick Santorum.
No, it's not Rick Santorum.
That's the guy
either.
I support.
It's by far Mitt Romney, but even if you want to vote for a second guy in electability, Ron Paul shows up better than either of Santorum or Gingrich on all of this polling.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, when you really come down to it, if you're making that argument, you have to at least examine the evidence of who is most electable. I'll never make a decision that way. But Newt Gingrich has shown over and over again that he's not that guy in all the national polling. Not to mention, he's finishing. He finished fourth and fifth in the first two primaries. There's no reason to believe he's more electable than any of these other guys.
All right, and the only last point I want to make is now's the time to argue.
Yeah.
But our country is at stake, and while we are pissed at each other right now, we are in this fight together, and we all care about the country. And I apologize for ranting and giving anybody the impression that we're not in this together. We are. And we got to duke it out, but we have to come together. We must come together. Once we've duked it out and we've said all those things, said what we believed, and sometimes have a gasket blown, we have to ask for each other's understanding and apologies as soon as we possibly can, because once this fight's over, we're buddies. And we're in it together, and we have to do it together. There is darkness that's spread across this planet and in this country. And we have to reach out to each other, that we, even those that we disagree with, as long as we're rooted in principles. Principles is the key. Sponsor this half hour is LifeLock. I want you to go to lifelock.com. 1-800-440-4936. 1-800-440-4936. 36. One of the largest shoe and apparel retailers in America had a massive data breach. 24 million of its customers, potential victims of identity theft. Information exposed in the breach was customer names, addresses, email addresses, encrypted passwords, and the last four digits of credit card numbers. LifeLock Ultimate is a new science in ID theft protection, and they brought it to you first. You were the first one to see if anybody would really understand what this was and agree with me and agree with LifeLock that it was needed. This is, I think, their number one seller, number one protection service that they offer. It is to watch your banks and your cash, your savings account, and your checking account. You will not believe. Go to lifelock.com and read about this. You're not going to believe that nobody is doing this. Nobody is really, truly protecting your savings account, your checkings account, and your name. LifeLock Ultimate. I have it. I recommend that you have it as well. At least check into it, please. Go to lifelock.com, lifelock.com, or call 1-800-440-4936 and mention Beck and receive a 10% discount on your LifeLock membership. 1-800-440-4936, 800-440-4936.